Evil dies. Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Comic Core. I got gimmick red lights. My name's Carson, aka Seawater 19, but I couldn't come alone talk about horror movies. I had to ask the person who has the most knowledge I've ever seen of horror movies. Cat Ren Figures. How you doing, Cat?
Hi, dude, I'm down. You know I'm here for the big three.
Oh yeah, I actually prepped for this video today. I watched back to back Jason Takes Manhattan and Jason X. And I don't think I've seen Jason X since like the early 2000s.
Oh, you're missing out, kid.
I caught the whole thing today. So
yes.
We'll talk more about it in our rankings. So the way we're going to do tonight, we're going to talk about Halloween Kills at the tail end of this whole horror special, whatever you want to call it. So I know a lot of people have Halloween Kills fresh on their mind because it came out last week. It's on Peacock. So there's that to look forward to. But first, we're going to talk about our top 5 best Halloween / Jason Voorhees / Freddy Krueger, because I want to talk slasher films. I figure we just throw them all in the blender and rank.
Let's get this. Let's get this intro correct, okay? Halloween / Friday the 13th / Nightmare on Elm Street.
There you go.
There you go.
You gotta say the full name.
So you got Michael. It wouldn't all
fit in the
you got Jason, and you got Freddy.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about our top 5 best, but I gotta be honest, I'm kind of looking forward to our second segment, our top 5 worst. I'm curious to see where you're gonna fall on some of these movies, because I know we're at least gonna have one movie. Maybe 2 movies we're gonna severely disagree on.
Oh yeah, I guarantee it.
So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
I know that one of my films that I think is the worst film probably made in the entire franchise of this one franchise that we're going to be talking about is a lot of people's favorite out of that franchise. And when I do mention that, I do get a lot of people really mad at me. So
interesting. Okay, So let's just go ahead and hop right into it here. I want to start with the top 5 best. Kat, I want to know what your number 5 is. Let's count them down. We're going to take turns counting down. So what is your 5th favorite film of all of these?
All right, so my 5th favorite out of all of these, I'm going to go with Friday the 13th, Part 2. I love Part 2. It's the first real introduction to adult Jason. I understand a lot of people want to kind of make fun of the baghead Jason. I like it. I think it's campy. I like the fact that they're not really able to justify how he's been living in the woods. And it's like, oh, well, maybe he saw his mom die. And I love the final girl in this. I think she's one of the best final girls throughout horror in general. And we don't really get a lot of respect for that final girl because she's only in one movie. She declined to come back for the third one. And I mean, the whole reason why she didn't come back for the third one was because they wanted to rip off Halloween 2 and have her be mute in a hospital. So, I love Part 2 for Friday the 13th. You got the final girl that has no issue. She hooks up, she drinks, she battles with a chainsaw. I mean, the chick's hardcore, and I love it. It's got some really solid kills. And yeah, for the most part, it's kind of like a little bit of a recamping of the first film, but slightly better. Because we got our boy back. We got our Jason, our adult Jason running around.
Absolutely.
So Part 2.
I do love that one as well. I gotta say that there was a Part 2 that's at number 5 on my list, but it is not that Part 2. But first, I will acknowledge the Great Legend Show in the chat. He says he loves Part 2.
Yes.
Wheelchairs down the stairs.
Mark getting the machete to the face. Yes.
My favorite memory of that, I actually watched the Monster Vision on TNT back in the day with Joe Bob Briggs.
Yes.
And Joe Bob, he goes, what do you think the odds of this guy surviving this movie are? And he's like, we're going to take a commercial break right here, but I want to get the live comments now. Like, will he have a machete to the head being pushed down the stairs, or is he going to gently will away from Jason? And the second they come back from commercial break, he is wheeling down the stairs with a machete in his head. So I love me some Joe Bob. But my number 5 pick, and this was my most difficult pick for my top 5 list because there were 2 movies I wanted to put here. But at the end of the day, I inevitably went with Halloween 2. The one where they're in the hospital originally.
Yep.
Because they seem like to go back to that hospital, but this is the one that started in the hospital. And I think it's one of my favorites because not only like do you get like a good continuation from the first one, but just Dr. Loomis in this one. It's my favorite version of Dr. Loomis. He is the most out of his mind. He's just firing random bullets everywhere. I love the intro to this where he's just like, we gotta go find Michael now. And the other cop's like, dude, I've been trick-or-treated to death tonight. And he just looks at him and just cold dead. Donald Pleasant staring. He goes, you don't know what death is. And like that synth music comes in. My other favorite memory that has to do with that is I was at a Halloween party once and I put on Halloween 2 and that scene played and it goes into the intro. And some girl at the party just goes, what happened to the music? Why is it so bad? But I love the charm of it. And I think it's just a good story. It's the first one where you got to see the brutality of Michael because I'm sure we'll talk about the first one in a little bit. We're doing the top best of list. But this, like, they didn't really have a lot of blood and kill scenes in the first one. I mean, they had them, but they didn't use blood in them. This one, it's just, they went a little bit more 80s on it.
So just a tagline onto yours. I just wanted to give a little remembrance, a little shout out to my boy Ben Tramer. And Ben Tramer, you may have fallen in this film, but you were not forgotten. And you know what? You did get your shout out in Halloween Ends, so you might still be kicking around. We'll find out in Halloween Kills. I'm sure. Oh, Halloween Ends. I'm sure.
I did at least see one review hoping that Ben Tramer comes back to get hit by an ambulance and Halloween Ends. That would be so good. I mean, we got the Silver Shamrock mask. Can we at least get Ben Tramer getting smashed
Poor
with
Ben
an
Tramer.
ambulance? Or no, it was a cop car. See, I'm already getting my details switched around. But Kat, what is your number 4?
All right. My number 4 for the best out of these films. I am going to go with Nightmare on Elm Street, the original.
Oh, okay.
I loves me some Nancy. We got OG Freddy Krueger. And I love the dynamic between these two in this film. I mean, I feel like this is Heather Langenkamp at her best. I feel like this is Nancy in this franchise as her best. We've seen her through a couple different films in the Nightmare series, but I love it. I think the kills are phenomenal throughout. And I feel like Freddy really doesn't get much better than the OG Freddy. Of course, we all love Freddy throughout, but as an introduction film, and I'm not the biggest fan of all of the first films for any of these franchises, to be honest. Typically, the sequels kind of get a little more fun. They get zany. They introduce really great kills, really great moments. But I love the first one. So, Nightmare on Elm Street.
You can guess my list. I'm definitely going to have a lot more to add about the first one here in just a bit. But yeah, definitely got Johnny Depp's career kick-started. And then Nancy's dad, of course, that guy was like Mr. Bit Part back in the day. So to see him in that role was awesome. And to see him in another movie I'm going to talk about.
Johnny Depp.
There we go. Correct spelling. Thank you, Legend. Appreciate the Johnny Depp shout out there. But my number 4, let's just go ahead and get to it. I watched it today because I had to make sure this one held up because I think this is actually the only Friday the 13th entry on my top 5.
Ooh.
And I went with Jason Takes Manhattan. So
yes!
I decided to go with the fun one. In my opinion, I watched it today and I had a blast. And I know, there's going to be other ones. We're going to talk about honorable mentions and such that are, the first one I think is a legitimately good movie. It holds up in my opinion. And there's other ones like 4 and 6. We'll talk a little bit more about those as we go on, I'm sure. But Jason 8, if you watch it without a care in the world and can laugh at it, it is one of the most enjoyable experiences you can have. It starts with there's a boat at Crystal Lake. Jason kills the people having sex on the boat and uses that other boat to lure a boat that's going to the ocean to sail into New York full of a party of students. And it's just insane. I mean, you get Kane Hodder, of course, in it as well. He's great as Jason. You get Kelly Hu is thrown in there to kickstart her career. And then just the insanity that is New York. It's like this person who made this movie, I swear, has got to be like the same Homer Simpson who visited New York in that episode of The Simpsons, because New York is just portrayed as the worst place imaginable, which I'm sure it's not, but all the alleys are just filled with toxic waste and rats, and like the sewers flush out once every night and turn people into babies somehow, including Jason at the end. That's how you ultimately have to defeat Jason, is lure him into the New York sewers. And then there's this cute little puppy dog that keeps popping up that somehow survives the movie, and that was a lot of fun too. But yeah, Jason 8 or Takes Manhattan. Oh man, I had such a blast rewatching this today.
Dude, I love Jason 8. Also, one of Kane Hodder's favorites, and he actually knocked someone out when they were not filming because they tried to steal the mask.
Oh, jeez.
So, when they're like in Times Square and everything, just for that one little scene and everything. So they're not even filming at the time period. He's just kind of like sitting on a bench, and he's got the mask sitting next to him. And some jokester thought it would be cool to run up and try to steal his mask. And Kane Hodder punched him square in the back of the head and grabbed his mask, knocked him clean out.
I'm just going to assume it was just like poor Julius, got his head uppercutted into a dumpster and then
knocked the
just
block
fell
off.
shut. Yep. Hit him with his best shot. All right, what's your next one, Kat?
All right. So my number 3. And honestly, I feel like a lot of my top 5s can kind of be like switched, and it'll change just depending. But I mean, these 5 films are pretty much it. But my number 3, one of my favorites out of the whole thing, and that's gotta be my boy Kane Hodder's first appearance as Jason Voorhees, Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. So this is actually one of my favorite horror films of all time. So, of course, we've got the introduction of Kane Hodder as Jason, which I'll tell you, Kane Hodder, very iconic Jason actor. He's played Jason the most out of any actor out there. He's phenomenal. Loves me some Kane Hodder. But we basically have Jason versus Carrie in this. We've got a troubled young girl that has telekinesis. We've got some fantastic kills, which were unfortunately censored to the 9s by the boards. Of course, we've seen some of the really gutted versions of the kills online, like bootleg copies of it, which clearly are not as good. We've got that solid, sleeping bag kill, which was supposed to be multiple hits, but the one hit alone, I feel like just goes to show you how brutal Jason truly is and how hard that man can just hit someone. Of course, we did kind of get a little bit of an homage with that with Jason X and other things in the series. But Kane Hodder's fantastic. We have the Weed Whacker kill, which is one of my favorite kills throughout the entire franchise. Death by Weed Whacker, I love so much. I am unashamedly, I love that kill. I think it's fantastic. And we do have a record-breaking burn with this. The stunt sequence that that Kane Hodder does. I was going to say that Jason Voorhees does, but he basically is Jason Voorhees, so it's fine. But Kane Hodder had a record burn throughout that whole sequence, and just a fantastic action. And I remember being able to talk to him for Mainframe, and he was just going on he staged that whole fight sequence between him and your final girl. And I mean, it's just put up your dukes. He's a stuntman through and through. He doesn't need a stunt person, and he's there for it. So he took all that abuse, and it's fantastic. It shows. I love Part 7 so much.
Yeah, that was gonna be that's one of the ones, like, if I was probably gonna put another Friday the 13th in, that one would have been ones that I thought about putting in the cut. But it just didn't make it for me. Good movie though.
Mhm.
My next one, I had to put it in there just like you did. Nightmare on Elm Street Part 1. I think that's on anybody's top 5. Like, it's just the original idea that Wes Craven had for that, just this crazy evil man who somehow can get into your dreams and turn them into nightmares, and you wake up and the nightmare was real. Like, that's just such a good idea that I think, try to get repeated so many times over time, and just they never quite did it the same. But that first one, and then, like you said, Nancy is excellent in it. Johnny Depp's character is pretty good in it too. He has one of the best on-screen kills ever, where he gets sucked into his own bed and then just gets launched out of it piece by piece and by gallons of blood. So you got to shout out that kill. And then the whole crazy twist ending where you think he's dead, and then he grabs the mom dummy and just yanks her into the door when they take off into the Freddy car. It's just a classic from start to finish. So easily had to go on my list. I don't really know what else I can say about it hadn't been said already. But yeah, it has to be in the top 5 in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
So what's your next one?
All right. So my second one. So my second one is actually going to be the OG Halloween.
Okay.
So it's probably up this high just because I've seen it so many times this month. But OG Halloween, I love the score throughout. I love the introduction of Jamie Lee Curtis. I love Donald Pleasance throughout. I think he is fantastic. Donald Pleasance just makes the first several Halloween films for me. And I mean, yeah, we've got some solid kills throughout. We've got clearly our padding of the kill count here with the body count with Totally and Nancy Loomis and everything, but it's a solid movie. I love it. I love some of the moments where you just see him just choke someone out, and you're like, wow, this is really happening. But I love how it was made on a shoestring budget. I love small creators and kind of that, just someone getting a camera and some well-meaning people together and putting a piece of art in front of us. And this is really the film that kind of revitalized horror. And I mean, this is the film that really spawned, for a big part of it, the other two, kind of.
Absolutely.
To a degree, the three of them have always played off each other. But let's face it, if it wasn't for Halloween 1978, would the other three have been, or would they have existed as long if the three hadn't been a part of it? But honestly, I love Michael in this. I think he's fantastic. I definitely feel like it plays well with certain timelines better than others, and we'll be talking about that later on, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But Halloween, the OG, definitely my number 2 on my list.
Yeah, my number 2 is going to be the one we disagree on the most, and I could have switched this with the original Nightmare, but I had to go Dream Warriors, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 for my number 2 spot. I think I picked it number 2 because when I think of Freddy Krueger at the end of the day, obviously he was this big, chilling, evil incarnate villain in the first one. But by the time you got to Part 3, you really got to see Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger and all of his awesome 80s glory. He has all of the one-liners. He's doing all of those mannerisms we love so much from Freddy in general. And I think, in my opinion, this one has the most likable characters outside of the villain. Because once you get into most of these sequels, a lot of these characters are just throwaway characters to build on the kill count. Whereas in this one, you actually got to know the Dream Warriors. You kind of start to like those characters, but not like them enough to where their deaths still are hilarious. Like, I still laugh my ass off when the Wizard Master gets killed every time. And Freddy's like, I don't believe in that fairy tale BS or whatever he says. And then, of course, the welcome to primetime bitch. You got to love that one, too.
Oh, yeah.
So I just hated 4, though, because of those same reasons. They just bring back the Dream Warriors and kill them all and then get the Dream Master. But at least they got to come back for one more, I guess, which was another trope in most of these sequels. You bring back the former characters to get killed off instantly. But absolutely love Dream Warriors. So I know you have differing thoughts on that one, but
we're gonna cover that.
Yes, I'm sure we will.
So before we get into our number 1, do you want to throw out some honorable mentions?
Yeah, let's do some honorable mentions.
All right. So first, for my honorable mentions list, I wanted to throw out Wes Craven's A New Nightmare. I know a lot of fans don't like this movie. They don't even consider this necessarily a Freddy movie. Me personally, I think so many of Freddy's films have been him trying to break into our world. And I feel like this is the one film where he actually accomplishes that. Because not only is he this fictional character, but he's able to stalk the actress that played Nancy and her son. He's able to kill her husband, and it's fantastic. I love it. I watched this years ago. Of course, I wasn't allowed to watch this, but I snuck around to friends' houses and I saw this movie. But, we're not going to go into that. But I love this movie. Of course, I also love the fact that we've got Robert Englund in this, not as Freddy. Of course, he still voices Freddy in it, but he plays himself as well. And you're seeing the trials and tribulations of actors and Hollywood and all the stressors that come with that. And, when something horrifying comes to your family, what do? Also, I've got to give a huge shout out to my boy Rex, the T-Rex in this, holding it down. I love me some plushy goodness. But I have to support it 100%. Wes Craven's New Nightmare, honorable mention on my list.
Yeah, I definitely had that on my honorable mention list as well. I just thought it was cool. They, after that many movies, and especially after that 6th one, which I'm sure we're going to talk about here in a bit, they needed to try something different. And I thought it was a really nice experiment of a movie that I think landed the mark overall. Mm-hmm. So I definitely had to put that on my honorable mentions. One I almost put in my top 5, but I was like, does this really count toward our list? I had to get Freddy versus Jason out there. Just a fun movie. I'm glad at least happened once. I was kind of hoping for a sequel, but, it's kind of like rights development hell right now. But really enjoyed Freddy versus Jason. Jason 6, the 6th Friday the 13th, where we actually get Jason coming back, the real Jason this time. Always, and I think that's the best version of Tommy in that one as well. First Friday the 13th, of course, with Mama Voorhees wreaking all the havoc. We have to. I don't even think that made either of our top 5.
No.
So that was like, I think the big shocker is Friday the 13th Part 1. I would say if I was going to have a position 7, that would be there, and then the last one, Halloween 4. That was the one that I kind of argued with myself, like, should I take 2 off and put on 4? Because I love some Danielle Harris. She was great in those 2 movies she was in. Never got enough credit, especially from the studio. But they botched so many endings to those movies. I just decided to keep it at number 6. So, which wasn't a list.
So, my only other real honorable mentions I kind of want to get out there. You kind of talked about this a little bit on your list, which I was really, really happy about because I was torn and I didn't include these on my list. And I know a lot of people would be surprised I didn't include either one of these films, but Friday the 13th Part 8.
Yeah.
I have a lot of fun with this movie. It's one that I'm constantly going back to and having a lot of fun with. We all know I loves me some Kane Hodder, but, didn't quite make the cut for me personally. And then Friday the 13th, Jason X.
Mm-hmm.
Jason X, I have so much fun with. And it's been a running joke throughout basically all the horror franchises that you get to a point where you end up in space. And yes, everyone ends up in space. Jason ended up in space. Leprechaun ended in space.
Critters.
Critters are supposed to be in space. Let's be honest, because they're aliens anyway.
They went back to space, I guess.
They went back to space. But I mean, there was one point in time when Michael Myers almost went to space. Just to tell you, it almost happened. It was something that was pitched, did not happen, almost happened. But Jason X has a lot of fun with it. I wish they'd gone a little more with the sci-fi route there. I wish they'd kept to like the campiness there. But I have a lot of fun with Jason X. And last on my honorable mentions list would have to be Halloween 5. I love the scene. The scene that always sticks out to me out of this is Jamie in the laundry chute. My father used to own this house, this like big house that he was like renovating or whatever, and he had this big chute like that in this old house, and it scared me to no end because I had like faked sick one year to watch all the Halloween movies on television. And whenever my mom came home to like check on me from work, I would like change the channel and everything and like pretend that I was just watching cartoons or something. No, I was watching the made for TV cuts of all the Halloween movies, let's be honest. But I just remember the shoot, and it's so scary. And I love the scenes where they're being chased by the car at the very end. Of course, Danielle Harris, she's a champ. I love her. Everyone loves her, let's be honest. But even I know a lot of people hate Tina in this. I thought she was fun as a kid. I have no issues with her as an adult just because I was a kid sneaking around to watch this movie. And I have no issue with her. But those are my honorable mentions for this. So do we want to get into one?
Yeah, let's do it. So what is your top pick?
All right, so my number one, I feel like it's not going to shock anyone really, but Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Danielle Harris as Jamie Lloyd playing off Donald Pleasance as Dr. Loomis is fantastic. Of course, I love Ellie as Rachel. I love the whole sister dynamic between those two. I love all the scenes where you see Rachel kind of like trying to fight against, and she's like, no, I have a date with Brody. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And then instantly when Jamie overhears and she apologizes to Rachel, Rachel feels horrible because Rachel's actually a decent older sister. And I love that in a lot of these horror films, and even in a lot of just random films in general that involve teenagers and kids, you see the teenager just being so spiteful towards the child and doesn't want to have anything to do with them. But this, I feel like it's the exact opposite. And I loved the relationship there. I loved how far you could see Rachel willing to go to protect Jamie. And of course, I know they didn't really go anywhere with it, but I love the ending where you see that Jamie's actually attacked her pseudo mom, her foster mother, stepmom. They keep calling her stepmom in part 5, so it confuses me because they refer to her as the stepmom multiple times, but it's actually her foster mother. But I love it. I think it's awesome. Danielle Harris in her first ever movie role, and she is a champ. She's a full-on champion for the field of horror. And unfortunately, I have not been able to see the re-releases that Scream Factory did for the Thorn trilogy. That's part 4 through part 6. So I'm not really going to be able to talk about that for this, unfortunately, because I don't have my copies yet. But definitely excited to see what they did with that, especially with part 6, which is kind of the pain in everyone's side, the thorn, if you will, in everyone's side. But that is my number one for these three. So, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers.
Yeah,
What about
I agree.
you?
I agree with all those points on Halloween 4. One more thing I just remembered about 4, and I wanted to mention before I move on to my pick, is
Okay.
it may have one of, if not the best opening of all of these movies. Like that, just the credit sequence where they have this like eerie farm that's just in the middle of late October, fall, and it's like they knew they couldn't top like the John Carpenter score from the original or anything like that. So they just went and like shot some of this like eerie footage with this like breeze as an undertone. It really just sets the mood for the whole movie. I thought it was cool. They tried something different, and by the next one, they just let's try to replicate the original again and fail. So I really did enjoy that they tried something different with the opening. But as you can probably guess at this point, my number one's just original Halloween. I couldn't not put it at my number one. Like it has one thing that every other movie on however was there, like 29, 30 movies. Of all of those movies, I think this one is the most timeless classic at this point. Like it is, like you can watch it now and enjoy it just as much, in my opinion, as if you watched it in the late 70s, early 80s, or 90s. Like it's just it holds up more so than any other movies, in my opinion. The second closest would be Nightmare 1, which we talked about already. But I think if you're putting a number one on your list, it's got to be Halloween. From the John Carpenter score, from his directing to him setting out to be like, I want to make a slasher flick, but not use any blood and just make it as suspenseful as possible with the babysitters as the main characters. And he definitely did an A+ effort here. And like you said, Donald Pleasance is the man in this, especially going through the all of them. Donald Pleasance was just as good in the first one, and he put in all of the effort he could going forward. He's one of those few actors in these movies that you don't see start the phone it in. Like you get Donald Pleasance, he's going to take the role seriously, even if it's like the worst movie ever, which he may have been in the worst movie ever, which we're going to discuss here in a little bit. So that has to be my number one pick. And there was a question posed in the chat. I'm just going to ask it now. We're not going to answer it yet, just so we can kind of start to think about our answer. But after we're done with our worst, we've got to answer the question.
Okay.
You got to pick one. Freddy, Michael, or Jason.
Okay.
So we're posing that question now. We're going to think about it. But first, we got to get to the worst. So our top 5 worst movies. And there are some bad ones.
Yeah. There
are
lot.
Some very bad ones.
Yes.
So, I do have one quick segment before we move on. So
okay.
I took the liberty of going to the Internet Movie Database and seeing what their answer was to what the top 5 movies are. Okay. So number 1 is obviously Halloween, ranked a 7.7 out of 10. The next one is A Nightmare on Elm Street, ranked 7.5 out of 10. And then the next one may shock you. It's actually a 2-way tie between Halloween 2018 and can you guess what the other movie it's tied with is?
No. Is it not a Friday the 13th movie?
It is not a Friday the 13th movie it's tied with. It is a Freddy, and it's the Dream Warriors at a 6.6. So
see, a lot of people love Dream Warriors.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Love that movie. I'm going to tell you right now, the Halloween 2018, when it came out, everyone was talking about how it was the greatest movie of all time for a hot second there. Mm-hmm. And then everyone kind of changed their tone. But now, since Halloween Kills is out, everyone's singing the graces of 2018 again.
Sure.
That being said, I feel like it's a good movie. Is 2018 necessarily like the greatest movie out of the whole franchise? No, I wouldn't think that by any stretch. But is it a very honorable part of the franchise? Heck yeah. Yeah. I think it's great, and you can tell that Blumhouse has done a lot of research, and they really care about the character. I'm surprised. Friday even on the top 10?
Where is Jason, you may ask?
Where's my hockey mask wearing
Number 5
fella?
was A New Nightmare. at 6.5.
Okay.
So Jason doesn't even crack the top 5 technically. Number 6 is where he comes in, and it's the original Friday the 13th at a 6.4, which
That's
technically
not
is
even
Mrs.
him. It's his
Voorhees.
mom.
So
It's
that means number
Pamela.
7 is where you get Jason with Friday the 13th Part 2 at a 6.1. The further you go, literally with Friday the 13th, the scores just go down. I think the exception is the 5th one is really low, and then the 6th one kind of just starts like a new tier where they just decline from there. So that's what the Internet Movie Database thinks is the answer.
Oh wow!
And we'll get into their worst after our segment, but let's move on to the top 5 worst. So, Kat, what did you pick as your 5th least favorite film of all of these?
So, me personally, before we get into this, we all know I loves me a bad movie. I do. I wholeheartedly love bad movies. I'm one of the hosts of Is It That Bad on this channel, just to tell you how much I love bad movies. Me personally, when I was looking at the worst films, I was looking at the ones that either irritate me, hurt my soul, or my head, or just something that I wish had never happened. So these are the films that I would let Kane Hodder punch me in the face in order to erase these films from existence. And I've been hugged by that man several times in person, and he is like a very good bear hugger. Like, he's solid muscle, so it's going to hurt if I get punched by this man. I'm just saying. But these are the films that I wish had never existed.
Wow.
The worst 5 out of this. And I'm going to start off real strong, and I'm going to shock a lot of people with a Jason movie. So Friday the 13th, Part 9, Jason Goes to Hell. We have Worm Jason. Basically, it's an Invasion of the Body Snatchers kind of ripoff. He's a worm at one point in time. There's this weird, kind of side plot with a Voorhees child that existed that no one really cared about or knew anything about before. Like, they were trying to rip off Halloween, but also rip off Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And they've got some of the weirdest kills in this, but not in a good way. Like, someone literally takes an elbow to the face and dies in this movie. And you're like, why does this even happen? Why is this a thing? I don't really understand. But Jason Goes to Hell, not a good movie in my mind. Not one I go for. And it's surprising because it's part of the Kane Hodder Jason mythos. And it actually is the only Friday the 13th movie that has Kane Hodder out of the Jason costume. He also plays a security guard in it. And he dies off screen. So I'm all against this. I hate this movie. Number 5 on my worst.
Yeah. It's like the whole audience went to hell for about 90 minutes.
Yeah.
That one. I've got more on that one in a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
But I actually paid a visit to the Friday the 13th franchise for my number 5 worst. So for my 5th spot, I just went Nightmare on Elm Street. Or not, I'm sorry, Friday the 13th Part 5. The one with the replacement copycat killer. One of my pet peeves in some of these movies, and there can be some forgiven ones sometimes, like Scream 2. Obviously, how are you going to have a killer that was, unless you just bring Skeet Ulrich back as a zombie, that wasn't going to happen in Scream franchise. So it's got a copycat killer. This one tried to give us a copycat killer of Jason, and it just fell flat on its face. He didn't even have the right mask, for God's sake. And there was just not much likable about this movie. If it wasn't likable, it was just bland at its best parts. And for me, that's what's always just the worst thing about movies, is just being bland. Like, if you're going to be bad, at least have fun being terrible. Like Jason Takes Manhattan, perfect example. It's a terrible movie, but at least I laughed so many times watching it. I was having a good time. But with the 5th Friday the 13th, I barely even remember most of the kills in it. I just remember not liking it whatsoever. So what is your number 4?
Number 4. I'm I'm going to have to go with Friday the 13th, Part 5. I'm not
Nice.
kidding. But we've got the EMT killer. So I wrote down, what the fuck? Tommy Jarvis is fed to us as a red herring the entire time. Also, so all of this starts out because one person, they're not really mental patients, and it's not really a halfway house, and it's not really a sanitarium. It's people that are mentally disturbed that live in this kind of like halfway house that's a farm. They don't really explain it, but one patient kills another patient brutally. I don't know why they gave this man an axe, but he killed the other guy, and it's probably the best kill in the entire movie, to be completely honest. But then the EMT that is there to collect the body sees it, and it's his long lost son that no one ever knew about, and he goes on a killing spree. Of course, he's not able to kill the real killer because that guy got arrested. Instead, he's going to kill everyone else because I don't know why. No one else killed his son, just the one guy that's actually going to jail for it. But he decides to kill everyone else for it. It makes no sense. I think it's written poorly. I don't think the kills are very imaginative at all. I think this is the weakest Tommy Jarvis we have in the entire franchise. It's so silly at times. Even if you watch it, there's so many issues with continuity throughout scenes. Like the whole scene where that one woman is running around and her sweater appears and reappears and disappears, and it's wet and then it's dry and then there's some blood on it and then there's no blood on it and then it's ripped and then it's not ripped. Even her sweater can't understand what's going on with this movie. If you watch that one running sequence and just look at her sweater, it changes so many times. And it's like they couldn't understand what was going on. But it's a bad movie, and not in a good way. This is not a Jason Voorhees movie at all. I'm sorry. I like my EMTs saving people, not killing people in lackluster ways. So number 4 on my worst of the worst, that is Friday the 13th, Part 5.
Yeah, so my number 4, and I apologize, this is the part where I was going to put on my 3D glasses. I completely forgot to bring in my room up here, but I'm picking the Final Nightmare, Freddy's Dead. That movie is just a train wreck from start to finish. I could just imagine being a teenager in the 80s and like, oh my God, they're making a Freddy in 3D. I've got to go see that. And then you get there and you're like, oh, there's no 3D till like the last 10 minutes. So you have to sit through like 75 minutes of just the dumbest, most nonsensical Freddy movie. And that's saying a lot. They're pretty dumb at this point. To say this is the dumbest, it's up there. It does have some fun moments. Like I love the power glove moment where he's like, now you're playing with power. And he like guts the guy with the power glove. That's clown. Or he's like playing with him on the NES and he falls off a drain pipe or something in a Mario game. And then you get like, I don't remember who the main character is. It's like, was it like Billy Zane's sister, I think? And she's just the most unlikable final girl you've ever seen in your life. Oh my God. It's just so bad. You do get Johnny Depp doing his brain on drugs, which is kind of appropriate for the time because he was probably on drugs to be in that movie to begin with. I think Roseanne is in it for some reason and a cameo. Like the cameos are more entertaining than the actual movie. And it's just bad from start to finish. So I had to put this on the list.
I use that as a drinking game when I'm bored sometimes. I to this day have never been able to sit through that entire film completely sober.
So you probably haven't even got to the 3D, or you're seeing like 6D at that point.
No, it's a bad movie. It is a bad movie. But is it as bad as my number 3? We shall see. So my number 3, this is a movie that may or may not be on Carson's list. I know this is a film that you and I have both talked about before, but Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
Oh.
So Halloween 2, it's the movie that I don't even think this movie knows what it wants to be or what it's supposed to say. Of course, the Rob Zombie Halloween movie happened. Ugh. And yeah, so we've got a homeless Michael Myers walking around for some reason. Hobo Myers walking around, not understanding what's going on. We've got ghost moms running around with horses for some reason. I don't know if that's supposed to be their dad or what. And then we've got this weird whole thing where Laurie and Michael are supposed to like reconnect as siblings for some reason, even though he brutally murdered like all of her friends and then murders another one of her friends in this movie for some reason. But it's a god awful movie that it makes no sense. I don't know what this movie is. It hurts my head. It hurts my heart. And I don't know why Rob Zombie is allowed to make movies. I'm sorry, but Halloween 2, I apologize for reminding anyone that this movie even exists. That is my number 3 on this list.
Yeah, it almost made my list. I know we're not getting into dishonorable mentions yet, but this was my top dishonorable mention was this movie. And you put the nail right on the head there. It's just like this movie didn't know what it wanted to be. It's like the first one, not great. It's middle road for me. I don't think it's as bad as people say, but I don't think it's great either. I'm not going to defend it. But it was just successful enough. Someone said, we need to make a sequel and make more money. And Rob Zombie's like, well, huh? You're going to give me more money? All right, I guess. So, yeah, that was so close to making my list of just tragic, awful films. But my number 3, and you've already talked about it, Jason Goes to Hell. Friday 9. This movie is so strange. It's only worth the watch for maybe the last minute where you get to see the Freddy glove come out of the ground and drag the mask to hell, and you hear the cackle of Freddy Krueger, and you're just like, oh, we're going to get like a Freddy versus Jason. And then that didn't happen for like another decade. But the whole like, let's kill Jason in the first 5 minutes and then have this guy who's dissecting Jason eat worms that are Jason or something, and then he turns into Jason. And yeah, I don't even know if I've sat through it all the way more than the scenes I've just mentioned. You don't want to. To be honest,
you don't want to. It just gets worse.
Yeah, I probably have watched it. There's nothing worth noting or remembering about it until that Freddy glove at the end. But yeah, that had to be mentioned in the most dishonorable. Before we keep going into our number 2 pick and some dishonorable mentions, I do want to say hi to some people popping up in the chat here. We've got Bad News Chris Barry. He says, hey friends, long time no see. Very happy to see Chris Barrett in a live chat again. It's been too long, man. We got JB from Discovery Bay Comics. What is going on, Disco JB? And we've got Comics Misexplained. Jason Cantu. How's it going on, CM? So happy to see some people hopping in the live chat tonight. But Kat, what is your number 2 pick? Was it hard to pick a number 2, or did you have a definite number 1 pick at this point? Like, how difficult were these top picks for you?
So I pretty much knew right away what my top 5 worst were. It was literally just sitting down and figuring out what the numbering was going to be, because all 5 of these films I wish had never existed. Like I said before, I'm totally fine if if I could make a deal where Kane Hodder could just punch me in the face one time, and for each time he punches me in the face, every single one of these 5 films would disappear from existence, I would totally accept that. Okay, that would be my trial to make these films no longer happen, and to where people would no longer have to suffer through these films. But it is what it is. So it was just figuring out what the numberings were. Of course, my worst 2 on this list, I pretty much knew right away. Without a shadow of a doubt, I knew what they were. It was literally just going to be 3 through 5 that were kind of back and forth onto what they were. But my number 1 and number 2, I knew.
Okay.
Solid throughout. So my number 2 on the worst films out of all 3 franchises is, and this is actually in your top 5 list. So, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors.
Wow.
This is the film that when I talk about with people, pisses them off to no end. I hate this film. I know so many people that think this is the greatest Freddy film of all time. They love this film. I have people who have threatened me over this film before, over my views of this film before. I hate Dream Warriors throughout. I think this is everything that is wrong with Freddy Krueger. I like bad movies. I do. I like the occasional cheese when it's funny. Me, I didn't grow up with this movie, and everyone I know that loves this film, that defends it vehemently, they talk about, oh, when I was a kid, I watched this. I didn't watch this as a kid, so maybe that's my issue. Maybe I should have watched this as a kid. Me as an adult and as a teenager, when I first did view this, I hate this movie. I don't think it's fun. I don't connect with the Warriors. I don't like the final girl. I don't like any of it. I want this movie to go away. I don't want to have to watch this movie ever again. And whenever we get into a Nightmare on Elm Street kind of like, little showdown, little watch along where we have to watch all of them, which I love most of them. I do. This movie is one of the pains where I'm like, do I have to watch this movie again? But we get there. We get through it. We survive. That's what's important. So, Dream Warriors. Oof. I apologize to no one. I hate this movie.
So I'm guessing you would just love to see Kane Hodder show up and punch all of Dawkins in their collective faces.
Yes.
Now, it is a very 80s movie, so if you missed the boat on it, I can get why one wouldn't like it. So, but I do retain the fact that it was in my top 5 and my favorite Freddy movie. But we're talking about how difficult or lack thereof it was to pick the top 2. For me as well, I think it was pretty easy, and I could have interchanged my top 2. But I thought it weird because, I consider this kind of maybe the favorite franchise for me, but my bottom 2 come from the same franchise, and that's Halloween. So for number 2, and this was, like I said, I could have interchanged my 1 and 2. For number 2, I picked Halloween Resurrection. I hate Halloween Resurrection so much. My girl Katie Sackhoff was in it. I was like, yeah, maybe this does have a redeeming quality. It's got Katie Sackhoff. She's great in Battlestar Galactica, and she gets just killed off like no problem in the middle of the movie. No hype, even though she's like the other lead character. And then the whole Busta Rhymes thing, the whole reality show in the Myers house. I know it's of the time. People loved reality everything. And it's just the whole like Busta Rhymes like, I'm going to dress like Michael Myers and pretend to be him for the sake of this reality show. And then the real Michael Myers shows up and starts killing the people in the show. And then they fight at the end and somehow Busta Rhymes wins against Michael Myers. Are you kidding me? This is the absolute worst ending possible for this whole movie. And they tried to I just picture what if Halloween Kills ended with Busta Rhymes showing up chanting evil dies tonight and actually wins. That would have been the same type of thing to me if that happened. It's just, this movie is absolutely terrible. I do not like it, and Kane Hodder has permission to punch me in the face to make me forget about that movie.
Okay, I need to interject on this. I love Resurrection. I love Resurrection so much that I actually bought this Halloween Resurrection tumbler right here, where it says, I'm not sure if you can actually read it because the light. Yeah, you can't read it. Anywho, it's from Spirit Halloween this year. It's brand new. It says, I'm not a talker, I'm a stalker. I love it. I love that movie. No, it's not a good movie. It is a very bad movie, but it's a fun movie. It's a very fun movie. It's a good bad movie, which we all know I love bad movies. And I will fully support the fact that it is a bad movie. It's a very bad movie. And I know your girl Katie Sackhoff, she did a watch along on her YouTube channel this last year, and I found out a bit more about the making of the movie that kind of made me uncomfortable. That whole sequence where she flashes her bra in it, apparently she did not agree to that, and she just kind of showed him her stomach and laughed about it. And they went back and hired a body double to shoot the bra scene, which she wasn't okay with. And
yeah, that seems pretty wrong.
I thought that was very wrong. And all three of these big franchises have had moments where the studios have done actors and actresses wrong, but that was wrong. That was wrong. But Resurrection's a fun movie. It's a bad movie, but it's a fun movie. It's a silly movie. And I love Buster Rhymes trying to break up those kung fu moves on Michael Myers. God. And I love the like weird Big Brother TV series web series that they're doing. I love Deckard and him like, you know, paging her as to what, like, he's in the hallway, you know, he's outside, he's still alive. It's a bad movie, it is, but it's a fun movie.
I'm glad someone in the world enjoyed it. And
I'm sorry. There's one person in this world that likes this movie, and it's me, and I'm totally fine with it.
I'll keep crapping on that movie. You can keep crapping on Dream Warriors. We'll just call it even. Before we go into our honorable mentions, I haven't had a chance to say hi to this gentleman for a while. We got the Mastodon. What is going on, Donnie? Nice to see you in the chat tonight. All right, it's time for some, or I said honorable mentions. It's time for some dishonorable mentions. So, what almost made your list but didn't quite?
All right, so of course, we've got Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. We all know that I don't like Dream Warriors. Basically, it's kind of a continuation of Dream Warriors, except Freddy actually gets to kill everyone from Dream Warriors, which I'm kind of okay with. But it's still not necessarily a good movie. It's still not necessarily a fun movie. It's just kind of paced weird for me. It doesn't connect with me personally.
I did like the junkyard scene with Kincaid where he's like, Freddy's back! And then like all of a sudden, like Freddy has this junkyard he likes to kill people in for a while.
Continuing on, okay, so for me, there's one movie in technically two franchises in this that can be a good movie for one of the characters and a god-awful movie for the other franchise. So for one franchise, I feel like it's an okay movie. The other franchise, I feel like it's an abomination. So that's why it didn't make my top 5. I'm going to be talking about Freddy versus Jason.
Wow.
For me personally, I feel like it's an ideal Freddy movie. I feel like, Freddy, he's got a lot of really great one-liners in this. We do get to see a lot of humor there. I love that. We get to see him kind of masterminding a lot of things. And you can tell that, our boy had some fun with this. He did. That being said, I also feel like it's kind of an abomination if we're talking about the Friday the 13th series, because Jason Voorhees is done dirty in this movie. Mm-hmm. They make him afraid of water, for Christ's sakes. How many? Dude, his whole thing is freaking water. He kills around a lake. How many times has this guy been submerged in water, climbed onto boats? I mean, the whole thing from part 8 was him climbing up that, what is it called? The anchor? He climbed up the freaking anchor.
Now, to be fair, this may be the same Jason who got turned into a baby by liquid toxic waste in New York.
That's true.
Jason takes Manhattan, so he's like, no, I don't want to be a baby again.
I mean, so Freddy vs. Jason also has my girl Catherine Isabel in it, which I love her from American Mary. I think this woman is fantastic. That being said, not even she can save this movie for me. There are so many parts of this movie that are so poorly done, but then there's certain parts of it that I kind of love, like the way her boyfriend gets killed and he gets just like kind of crunched in the bed. I mean, I'm totally down for that. So, I mean, if we're talking about a Jason movie, I think this movie is a dishonorable mention, and it's a horrifying movie. If we're talking about a Freddy movie, I feel like it's pretty good. So, there's that. There's definitely that. Another dishonorable mention for me, it didn't make my list because I already mentioned I have not seen the most recent Scream Factory re-releases of the Thorn trilogy, and I've talked about both 4 and 5. We need to talk about the abomination or the thorn of that trilogy, which is part 6. So part 6, we've got a 15-year-old Jamie having a baby with her uncle and then being slaughtered. If you don't want to talk about how god-awful the movie itself is, we can talk about how god-awful all the behind-the-scenes stuff was, how they did Danielle Harris dirty on this, and all that. But there's this whole thing with a baby. The creators of it tried to make sense of so many things, Why does Michael Myers have this stupid tattoo all of a sudden? What is going on with Jamie, this man in black? What is all this nonsense? And it still makes no sense. I can't put it on my list because I don't know everything else. Did the baby kill Jamie? No, the baby did not kill Jamie.
It's a Jason baby.
Michael Myers kills Jamie in this. And then there's different cuts of this movie too. Like there's the producer's cut, which I feel like is a better movie because you get more of like Donald Pleasant's goodness with all of his like monologues, which honestly, I mean, I could listen to Donald Pleasant's voice read a phone book and I'd be happy. I love Donald Pleasance. I cannot shout out that man enough. So much love on Donald Pleasance. But we have Paul Rudd in it. So Paul Rudd was in this, and he's also in Clueless at the same time. Of course, this is the movie that he prefers didn't happen. He would like to have everyone believe that Clueless was his first ever movie, and nothing about this ever existed. Because he's Ant-Man now. He's Ant-Man, and he doesn't need all this. But it's a bad movie. It's a very, very bad movie, and I don't have fun with it. I don't like knowing all the behind the scenes stuff. And some of the cut scenes make no sense to me. Like the few things like, monsters be gone incantation. Like, why would you cut out this woman being a decent mother? But there's that. And I mean, I normally like bad movies, but I can't with these. So those, I believe, are my dishonorable mentions. Yeah. Hi.
What's up, Chad?
Hey guys, what's going on?
We're just talking about our dishonorable mentions, the worst of these franchises. So what's up, Chad?
I'm just eating dinner with Comic Pop. Sal and Tiffany from Comic Pop.
Oh, nice.
Hi.
There they are. And Jim McLaughlin and John Suntress. But I just wanted to say, guys, I love you guys. I miss you already. And You guys are two of the best at reviewing movies. I don't give a shit what anybody else says. You're the best. And Kat, you have a sexy ass voice tonight.
I'm sick, and Chad called me, and immediately he's like, "Who am I talking to?" I'm like, "This is Kat." He's like, "No, it's not." I was like, "I swear to God, Chad, this is me." He's like, "Oh." He's like, "Your voice is really sexy right now."
Dude, like right now, I know this is gonna be. I'm breaking up your flow. I just needed to jump in and tell you guys how much I miss you guys, and like legend. Hopefully, I get to see Drew. But I miss you guys. This is what family is, right? So Saw's family, and check it out. Some dude's gonna fight somebody. So
Don't strip naked and jump in.
no, I'm just saying hi. Say hi to everybody. Say hi. Say hi.
Hi.
It's Kat and my friends. All right, love you guys.
Bye.
Later, Chad. Yeah, that was Chad live via satellite from Baltimore, Maryland, home of Baltimore Comic-Con, where I guess they're gonna do the Ringos. I think are tomorrow. So check out the Ringos. Those are always one of my favorite ceremonies of the year. You got to check that out for sure. But my honorable mentions for the worst. I don't know how some of these didn't make it because they are bad. But we already talked about Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. That easily could have made my list, no problem. Halloween 5, I kind of like that movie for the most part, but I think it killed a lot of momentum that 4 had for me. Like, I just didn't like that, we can turn Jamie into the new Michael Myers, and then they decided, like, oh, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to bring back the real Michael Myers, and she's just not going to talk for most of the movie. And we're going to pretend like she never killed somebody at the end of the last one. So that was kind of lame. But you still had Dr. Loomis in it at his best. So I can't put that on the list because he was awesome. And then, you know me, I had to put Freddy 4 on the list because they killed my Dream Warriors. They killed him. But like I said, I didn't want to put it on the list because I love that junkyard scene with Kincaid where you finally get to see him taken out. And I believe that you also get the infamous other waterbed kill with that kid Joey where he's like, "What's wrong, Joey? Another wet dream?" Which may be the best one-liner that he had besides Welcome to Prime Time. That was my second favorite of the one-liners. So you still have some good Freddy fun in there. But yeah, it goes both ways for me. So I couldn't quite put it on the list, but I had to still put in a dishonorable mention. But let's go ahead and get into our top number 1 pick. So what is your least favorite? The very trash barrel bottom of the list here. What reigns supreme or lack thereof here?
So for me, I'm one of those people, and I saw this in theaters. This was the first one out of this franchise that I was able to see in theaters. And I was able to actually convince my mother to take me to see this in theaters because I was underage at the time to where I couldn't actually get my own ticket. So I convinced her to go with me, right? I don't know how I was able to manage to do this, right? And I was so pumped for this. I was so hyped up. This was like the first time I'd be able to see these characters on the big screen. And I was so excited about it. I went in, and I'll tell you right now, I have walked out of 4 movies in theaters throughout my entire life. And this was one of the first ones I ever walked out on. So I'm going to talk about Rob Zombie's Halloween, the original one. I unfortunately convinced Mama Ren to take me to go see this. I don't know what I did, how much I begged, how many freaking chores I probably had to do around this house to get her to actually take me to go see this. Because, you know, my mom does not like horror movies, and she doesn't like anything really spooky or violent or anything. But I managed to convince her to take me to see this. And I was so excited about it, so pumped. I get there, and I get to see Rob Zombie's Halloween. Yes, I've seen it in its entirety multiple times. I do own the box set of Halloween. I do know all of that nonsense. Yes, we do have Danielle Harris returning to the Halloween franchise in this. And yes, she is topless in this movie. So, you know, there's one there's one high point in this entire movie. That being said, I'm gonna ask it again. Why is Rob Zombie allowed to direct anything? It's poorly created. It's just kind of like you took certain aspects and certain characters' names, and then you just kind of ran with whatever the hell you wanted. I understand that that you think Sherry Moon Zombie is one of the hottest women known to mankind. Okay, she's blonde. She's got big boobs. We've got that. She can't act to save her life. And it's god awful. It's a god awful movie, and it hurts my heart. And the reason why I put this as worse than the second one for me is this is the reason why we got the second one. The first movie caused the second one to happen. So I blame the first one. The first one is the bastard out of all of these movies for me. This is the one movie that, without a shadow of a doubt, I think needs to be deleted from everyone's consciousness. And I actually know some people that like this movie. I don't know why. It's poorly written. It's literally, so we've got a different Dr. Loomis in this. And I actually like the actor that they have for it.
Yeah.
That being said, it doesn't matter how iconic or how strong of an actor you have in a role. If it's a poorly written script and a shitty rendition of a character, they're not going to do a good job. And this is a Loomis that just wants money and to sell books. And he's like, yeah, I don't care about the whole like demonic kid thing, like looking in like and seeing a monster, you know, darkness, nothing in a kid's eyes. No. I just want the money. I'm here to sell these books. I'm here to, you know, do all this nonsense. But oh my god, it's a god awful movie. I don't want to see kid Michael Myers running around and screaming. I mean, it's a rough movie. It's not a good movie. God, it's a dumpster fire of a movie, if I can even say that. But we all know I love bad movies. But this is a horrifying movie, and not in a good way. I hate this movie. So my number one for the worst of all three franchises, the worst out of Michael, the worst out of Freddy, and the worst out of Jason, that is, without a shadow of a doubt, Rob Zombie's Halloween. You broke my spirit as a teenager. I got to see you in theaters, and it was not good. Not good.
Yeah, I remember seeing that in theaters as well. And I mean, like I said my piece on it earlier, I don't think it's that bad of a movie. I kind of respect that they tried something different, especially showing his childhood part. But yeah, you kind of mentioned a point with Malcolm McDowell as Dr. Loomis, and it was just written so poorly. There was no way he was going to be able to do anything with that role. It was just bad, which was kind of ironic. His character was just doing it for the money, because I'm pretty sure everybody was just there only for the money.
For the money.
So,
yeah.
But my number one, when I think of my least favorite movies of all time, they're movies that ideally not only are a terrible movie, but help to ruin other movies and franchises, and on top of it are just developmental disasters, and just from top to bottom their existence just does nothing but cause negative effects. So for my number one, I had to pick Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, a movie so bad they attempted to make it twice and it sucked twice, in my opinion. I don't like this movie. I feel so terrible for Donald Pleasance for having to be in this. Like, it looks like the poor guy's just acting like on his deathbed, but he's so committed to the character that he is there. He's doing what job he can before he ultimately passed away, because, you know, he was older age when they did this movie, but he passed away before it even came out, and it's almost just heartbreaking to watch for me that he had to be in this movie. And they even tried to like do one of the cuts where somehow like he gets the Michael Myers curse of the thorn at the end or something, and it's just like, why? What was the point of that? And, you know, Paul Rudd, I would do the same thing if I was him. I would claim that Clueless was my first movie and not this one. His role as Tommy Doyle was terrible. You could tell he was just like right out of acting school or something. I don't know what was going on. The whole let's recast Jamie Lloyd is someone not as good and kill off the character instantly and not even give the other actress the time of day, even though she even auditioned for the part. They still didn't give her the time of day. She was willing to do it for nothing, and it cost her money to do everything to be in this movie, and they still wouldn't allow her to reprise her character for whatever reason. It's everything about I hear about this movie, from all that to the whole thing with the Akkads. It's a train wreck. And like I said, it was so bad that they had to reboot the franchise for the first time. It's just, you know, when you make a movie and they reboot your whole franchise right after the movie, the previous one was terrible. Like, I think of Batman and Robin bad. Like, that's where I'm at with Halloween 6. Movie, easily for me, my number one pick. I could have interchanged it with Resurrection, because once again, a movie so bad, you rebooted the franchise. But yeah, there's another movie we didn't even talk about, H2O. Like, that's kind of before we even get to our intermovie database and our other picks. What are a couple other movies you wanted to highlight real quick before we move on? Because I'm guessing H2O was one of your favorites, and we never really even talked about that at all tonight.
I have fun with H2O. I know you don't like Resurrection. You probably don't like H2O. I have fun with them. I have so much fun with them. I mean, yeah, in H2O, he's kind of writing this like smutty love story or whatever. Well, of course, we're talking about, insert character right here. But we do get the start of Laurie Strode as a horrible mother in H2O.
That's true.
So in H2O, the whole idea is that she faked her death, and she's actually been living under an assumed identity. Now she is a teacher, professor, what have you, at this prep school academy, what have you. And, you know, she's so far away from Haddonfield right now. Now she has a teenage son. Of course, all of the films, you see Jamie kind of dealing with her own nonsense because she lost her mom through whatever. But it's just like, I like to look at it through a headcanon that if you look at it through a certain point, it's like, Laurie's kind of a shit mom. And this is the first ideal where you like, Laurie's kind of a shit mom. Because not only is she drunk most of the movie, but her whole thing for her son is she wants to keep her son from having anything to do with Halloween. She doesn't want to tell him what's going on with Michael Myers. And even when shit does end up hitting the fan, I mean, she just kind of wants to keep her son from being anything like her at the very end. And of course, once we get into Resurrection, we find out it's like, oh yeah, you know, you thought you were defeating Michael Myers. Yeah, well, you actually killed a random orderly. Sorry, but H2O, I have a lot of fun with. It's a silly movie. It's a good, bad movie. Also, we have another one of those attack sequences through a dumbwaiter chute in this. Those are terrifying. I would love to see more of those utilized in film. Dumbwaiters and like laundry chutes are terrifying things. But the whole sequence where the girl's attacked and she's getting stabbed through it and she's trying to like pull herself up and everything is just fabulous in my mind. Other films that I would really like to kind of go a bit more into with just all this. So Friday the 13th Part 3. Friday the 13th Part 3 is a movie that I kind of go back and forth with as to whether or not I like it because it's a good, bad movie, or whether or not I just think it's a really bad movie. So it's iconic because it's the first time we get to see Jason Voorhees with his hockey mask. Of course, it's also iconic because we've got the really shitty scenes like, oh, he's dead. Shelly's dead. Shelly's dead. And she's just running around the entire cabin screaming that a character's dead. It's like, honey, half your friends are dead at this point. Let's move on. But that movie, of course, we've got other films that kind of have their issues. The remake of Nightmare on Elm Street. I will tell you, I like some of the more realistic moments where they kind of delved into the actual kind of thoughts behind Freddy Krueger, which was people dying in their sleep suddenly. And it was kind of this huge epidemic of people just dying in their sleep suddenly, and they couldn't explain what was going on. But I don't like the Freddy Krueger in this. I don't like sorry. I don't like how a lot of it just kind of seems shoehorned in and forced, and it's a lot of bad acting and a lot of but we do have one of my favorite kills in that the remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street. Keelan Lutz slitting his own throat.
Oh yeah, that was a pretty crazy.
Freddy actually holding the blade is pretty awesome. Is, in my opinion, it's pretty awesome. But there's that, and then we get into some weird things like we've got. Are we even going to talk about Halloween 3 in this?
It didn't have Michael Myers in it. I was going to acknowledge that it was a Halloween movie, but
I mean, it's a Halloween movie where Michael Myers is literally just a commercial.
Yeah. Silver Shamrock.
It's not bad if you look at it as its own thing. It's its own thing, it's fine. If you look at it as a Halloween movie, it's a letdown because you don't have Michael in it. It's the same reason why I hated that one Friday the 13th film, because it didn't have a Voorhees in it. And continuing on, when we're talking about remakes and weird things, let's talk about the remake of Friday the 13th. So the remake of Friday the 13th, it kind of sets up this great kind of camp setting with all these characters. You're like, oh, how are these characters going to die? It kills off almost every single freaking character immediately in ways that we've seen throughout all of the Friday the 13th movies. And then you find out, oh no, that was just the opener sequence. Now we're going to get into the real movie. And the rest of the movie is kind of a letdown from that point on. The opening sequence, the first, I think it's like 15 minutes, that film, or maybe less actually, are so well done and so well paced. And I wanted to see that movie. And I was down for that movie. And then we get into the film that we did get. It was a lot of off-screen kills. It was a lot of poorly written things. I don't feel like the characters were as well fleshed out personally. And I think they just went with someone that had a face and a name that we would all know and, kind of associate with. Of course, we had the guy from Supernatural who's also in Gilmore Girls. We had, what's her name? Danielle
Panabaker from the Flash.
Panabaker.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's right. Yeah.
Danielle Panabaker is in it. And I know she got seriously injured during one of those stunts, and she
Ugh.
actually has a scar from it.
Oh wow.
But there's that, and then there's that god awful sequence where her boyfriend's cheating on her with a girl, and he's like your boobs are amazing, they're just so fantastic, and he's feeling her up, and he just keeps going on and on and on, and then she gets killed in front of him, and it's like, so that happens because that needed to happen. Of course, there are several cuts of that film, some of which are better and gorier, and some of which are a little not as good. But there you go. So those are my I guess honorable, dishonorable, whatever mentions that are left over for the thing.
Nice. Yeah, the only other thing I had to add was about Friday the 13th Part 3. I love the disco opening. Random, just stupid, didn't need to exist, but I still love that theme. We got to play it every Halloween. So before we get into our Halloween Kills review, we got to talk about what does the Internet Movie Database think are the worst films of this list. So what are the people out there who have voted on the Internet Movie Database? Like, what is their worst? So at I'm going number 6 because we do have a tie on this list. So number 6 is, I believe, Freddy's only entry on this list, and that's Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare at a 4.9 out of 10.
Okay.
The next one is your ties, and it's both Michael Myers. That's where you get, and this is funny because these are my top 2. You get Halloween 6 and the Rob Zombie cut of Halloween 2, each at a 4.8. And then next up would be Jason X at a 4.4. Criminally underrated, in my opinion. That one should be at least like a 5.
It's a fun movie.
It's a very fun movie. I watched it this afternoon. It is not they're definitely, the rest of the movies on this list are definitely harder to sit through than Jason X.
You cryogenically freeze a head and then you shatter it. That's at least worth 5.
I mean, you gotta remember before that, he cuts a guy's arm off when he's still frozen. Next up,
it's fine. He just wanted his machete.
Yeah, exactly.
Just wanted his machete.
The second worst movie on the list is Jason 9. So Jason Goes to Hell at a 4.2. So that was, and then the absolute worst was Halloween Resurrection, 4.0. A 4.0 for Halloween Resurrection and Busta Rhymes. And I couldn't agree with that one more. So that's the list. So now we got to answer one question that was posed earlier.
Yes.
Freddy, Jason, or Michael. Who do you pick? You can only pick one.
I'm going to let you go first because I've gone first this entire night.
Oh, that's true. I usually go ladies first, but I'll go first.
Okay, I'm going to let you go on this one.
Freddy.
Why?
Because at the end of the day, he can haunt the dreams of Jason. We've already seen that. Jason thought he won. He didn't. He just walked right into Freddy's realm. I mean, it's a tough pick. I mean, it really is. But at the end of the day, you can't replace Freddy. You can kind of put so-and-so under a Jason mask or a Michael mask. I know you have your favorites under the mask, but they have tried and failed miserably to replace Robert Englund in the past. And he is that character, and he can be as funny as you want him to be in the Freddy makeup, or he can be as serious and as chilling as possible in that makeup. Like, he's one of the few characters you can go any way you want with. Like, you can make a Freddy's Nightmares where he's your crypt keeper, and you'll have fun with him in between these segments, or you can watch A New Nightmare or the first one and be afraid of him at the same time, being the same character. So I think out of all three of those characters, he's definitely the most versatile on how you can use him, for sure. That being said, I still love the other characters. I was very close to just picking Michael, but he's been rebooted so many times. I'm just kind of over the whole reboot part of it. So I feel like he's just multiple characters at this point. And kind of the same thing with Jason. I mean, Jason is just Jason. He's just an unkillable zombie who can teleport somehow, and I absolutely love that too. Now you got to pick. I've hot dogged and grandstanded long enough. You have to pick one.
All right. I'm gonna go with my heart on this one. Jason, my boy Jason. So, we all know Michael Myers, evil, the shape, the boogeyman. We all know him. We all love him. Okay. Of course, Freddy. I mean, Freddy's the guy that's going to taunt you when he's getting ready to kill you. He's going to fuck with you not only in your dreams, but he's also going to come out, kill your mom in front of you, and then laugh in front of you when you're crying. Freddy is, he's his own thing. Jason, for me personally, Jason is my boy. Yes, he's a mama's boy with trauma. Yes, he's a mindless, brainless, unkillable zombie thing that gets resurrected so many times and unfortunately becomes a worm at some point in time. But we ignore that one. But Jason, there's just something that I love so much about just a guy running around with a machete, killing a bunch of sex-crazed camp counselors. I love him. I love Jason Voorhees so much. And I will always defend my sweet, sweet baby, Jason Voorhees. I will take him under my wing and I'll be fine with it. I'll wear the ugly yellow sweater for Jason. It's fine. Because Mother's talking to you, Jason.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we got a little bit of time left here, so we may as well just go ahead and talk about some Halloween kills. So
yes,
I got a chance last week to actually go see Halloween Kills in a theater. I saw there was going to be another John Carpenter soundtrack accompanying this, and I was like, I don't want to sit in my house and listen to this. I want to be able to sit in a full movie theater and experience Halloween Kills. And overall, I'm glad I did. Like, there's definitely some spots where I feel like the theater element benefited big time, especially like I said, the score on this was good. I think the score on the 2018 one was a bit stronger. It definitely stuck out a bit more, but that's not necessarily a good or bad thing. I'm just throwing it out there. But I really enjoyed the John Carpenter and the Cody Carpenter music in the theater in this one for sure. And then they just really had they had several scenes where Michael was just off camera, but you could hear him breathing and lurking. And on the sound in the theater, it came through really just chilling and awesome for a horror movie environment. So I definitely recommend for those reasons just to be able to go to the theater and see this if you can. But definitely watch it on Peacock for sure. But I was just trying to think of like where I would rank this if I had to put this on an overall list. I would probably still put it like maybe not in the middle, but maybe like closer to the top than the bottom. That being said, did have a couple problems, like with the Evil Dies Tonight crowd was just a bit too goofy. And, I like me some goofy stuff in my horror movies, but I feel like they're also trying to have this, like, especially with the 2018 precedent, they try to have this more serious aura about Michael. But that being said, too, he causes so much chaos and destruction in this movie. Like, it may be a record for a Halloween movie. Like, I definitely respected the fact that, like, to put it in a wrestling term, they pretty much, it's like when they brought back Brock Lesnar after being gone for like almost a decade, where he just came and started breaking people's arms and wrecking everything in his path. Like, they brought back old characters, and love from the original, and they just threw everything at him, and he won. Like, Michael wins this movie, and maybe for truly the first time ever. Like, there's just no doubt. Like, this not like, oh, we're gonna like knock him off his pedestal and you're gonna see him come back or like get struck by lightning and come back into the next movie or whatever. Like, he just plain wins at the end of this. Like, there's no questioning that. So, what are your initial thoughts about Halloween Kills?
So, Halloween Kills. So going into it, Halloween and Halloween 18 are the only films that are canon with this. That being said, watching this, there's so many Easter eggs for other Halloween films that you can tell they did so much research going into it. Of course, we've got the Shamrock masks that I love seeing. We've got so many other characters kind of being added back into it. We've got Lindsay, we've got Tommy Doyle, we've got Lonnie. I don't remember what his last name is. Hold on.
Yeah, and you also have the Halloween 2 hospital jackets. So when they're in the hospital, they're wearing the exact same jackets that the two wore that were the paramedic drivers in the original Halloween 2.
Yeah. But that being said, it's like I had issues with 2018 that I felt weren't resolved. One of my biggest ones was it felt like they never really dealt with the death of Allison's father. And it was a big plot hole for me. It's like, dude, this husband and father just dies and no one reacts to it. And in this, it gets to a point where Carol's she's washing her rings off and it's like, oh yeah, you're married. Your dad's dead. And it's heartbreaking. And it hits them and they're like, oh yeah, he was a thing. He was a character. And for me, this is probably the most emotional of a Halloween movie, period. I think Michael is so evil with this, especially when you get to the way he attacks certain couples. Hold on.
Yeah, I was going to mention the whole light tube incident where he basically takes out the one person in the couple, stabs the other with the light tube like it's a wrestling death match, but she's still alive. So he goes back to the husband while the wife is choking on a light tube, basically. And it's just a disaster of a scene. It's so unsettling.
He just kind of like makes them watch. He's like, oh yeah, I know you're suffering. And you're going to die. But the last thing I'm going to make you look at is the love of your life dying horribly. So there's that. But he does this, and he does it multiple times. He does it there. He does it with the two Johns, Big John and Little John in his house.
Oh, yeah.
And then he also attempts to do it with Allison and her boyfriend.
Yep. Which he does successfully do with the boyfriend when he basically gets his head knocked off. Or he doesn't get his head knocked off. I was waiting for that, to be honest, but he basically gets put in between like the part and the steps, and then he basically gets his neck snapped like twice, and then there's finally like one final neck snap at the very end, right in front of Allison. But I think the most chilling line in this movie was when Sheriff Hawkins from the 2018 one's laid up in the hospital next to Laurie, which I don't know why they're putting them together in hospital beds, but we're going to ignore that anyway. But there's one line that Hawkins says to Laurie, and that's when he talks about Michael is basically just a 6-year-old trapped in this adult body, and he just likes randomly killing things. He's just, he doesn't know any better. And somehow he has this power to cause this much chaos and pain. So he just chooses to do it because he just has this childish mentality. And that's all there is to it. It's no like, oh, Laurie's the sister. Like there's none of that, or there's no curse of the thorn or anything. It's just Michael is just an adolescent kid trapped in this murderous body and decides like, you know what? I'm a kid. It's fun.
So, you did touch on one thing I want to talk about. So, Michael, Laurie talking with the sheriff about Michael and about everything going on. So, Ben Tramer, you find out that Lori may or may not have had a little bit of a fling, a romantic whatever, with the sheriff, but she was always sweet on Ben Tramer, and he knew that. So I'm excited about Ben Tramer being a part of Halloween Ends.
Fingers crossed. Let's get that guy killed. If we can't get the original Ben Tramer, which we never saw anyway because he was behind this awful mask. Like, I just want to see him, and he gets hit by a police car. He doesn't even need to have any dialogue. Which, by the way, my biggest pet peeve in this movie: if you're going to lure Michael Myers out in the middle of the road, and you successfully do so by taking his mask and laying it down in the middle of the road, why would you not just run him over with a car instead of attacking him one-on-one? I know that is like my biggest pet peeve in this whole thing. I really enjoyed everything else, but this ending sequence, and I know horror movies are filled with dumb idiots, and this movie is no exception, which is why I can let a lot of stuff slide, but come on. What did you think of the Evil Dies Tonight crowd at the end of this?
So them attempting to end Michael is pathetic. So they think like, oh, we finally beat Michael Myers, he's gonna die, da da da. And Carol walks away or whatever. And it's like he gets up and he kills them all one-on-one. There's there's like 30 people there. They're heavily armed. You're telling me that all 30 of those people can't jump on him at once? They have to wait their turn to get killed one-on-one? What in the world? Why is everyone in this entire movie waiting their turn patiently to die? There's like 30 of you. Attack him all at once. And this happens almost in every single scene where there's a group getting killed. They waited their turn. Attack him all at once, and you'll have a shot at survival. But they just get wiped out. They get obliterated. And honestly, one of my favorite death sequences that we haven't even talked about yet is the firefighters in the very beginning.
That was pretty good.
Michael wiping out the entire fire department in the very beginning is fantastic. And again, they're waiting their turn. Attack him all at once. How many people are in this fire department? Attack him all at once.
I think that someone counted 11. 11 dudes.
Attack him all at once, and you'll have a chance at surviving. But everyone's so patient, and they wait their turn. Whether it's their spouse getting killed, a friend, a random concerned neighbor, they all wait their turn very patiently. So,
except for the one girl who ended up shooting her own face off. She tried to help, but it didn't work at all.
Yeah, she waited very patiently while her husband was getting killed.
Well, it was her husband, though. That guy was kind of a douche, to be fair.
Yeah.
He went back for his what did you think of Anthony Michael Hall as Tommy? I know that's kind of been a big talking point for a lot of people on this one.
I've been okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with Tommy Doyle surviving the first film and just kind of being scarred. And there's this whole thing where he wants to protect Lori. And he tells her when she's in her hospital bed, he's like, you protected me when I was a child and I couldn't. He's like, I'm going to protect you now. And you can tell he wants so badly to be the hero in this. He wants so badly to make it up to her because he knows everything that she went through in the first one. And even shouting her out in his little monologue, telling the story of Michael Myers and saying, Lori, wherever you are, I hope you're having a good evening, da-da-da-da, you know, happy Halloween. It's like you can tell that this shaped his life. As sad as that is, you can tell the last 40 years have shaped him. And it's so sad the way he goes down in the very end. It's like, wow, that was a lot quicker than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that's I think that was the most shocking death besides maybe the final one to me, where they actually took out Tommy. Like I figured at least one person would survive and be able to tell the goofy tale about all these people failing to kill Michael. But no, it's just going to be Allison because everybody else gets wiped out, including Karen, including Tommy. Like everybody, like pretty much the only person besides Allison to survive Michael, I think, was the other little girl from the original one. Was the only other person. Lindsay, yes. Lindsay's the only other person to survive an encounter with Michael in this one. Everyone else pretty much just got wiped out.
Kyle Richards actually came out from acting retirement for this.
Wow, really?
She, a lot of people might know her from the memes of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. She's in that.
Wow.
But yeah, she came out of acting retirement for this. So huge shout out there. She still got it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I want to talk about Karen dying.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was the way to really solidify, like, what in the world's the next one going to be? Because I figured, like, she might survive, but if they're going to take out one of the Strodes, it was going to be her. So I wasn't totally surprised when Michael was just, like, up in their bedroom or his sister's bedroom at the end of the movie with Karen, and she got taken out. But what are your thoughts on the whole Karen situation?
For me, I watch it and I think instantly of the end of part 4 with the, the pseudo mother figure getting attacked by Jamie.
Yeah.
And it's like the flash and everything. It's like, yeah, Karen, she's just screaming. And you just see flashes and knife and like the knife coming at her and everything. And you just see slashes across her skin. And you know she's dead. And it ends off with Lori, and you just see this look of realization. And it's like, does Lori know that her daughter's dead? Because I have a feeling that, like, just somehow psychically, I don't know if it's like a mother's intuition, but she knows her child is dead. And I feel like the next film is just going to be Lori going crazy. Lori's going to go after Michael, and it's going to be all sorts of psycho. And I'm here for it. Of course, Allison's in rough shape at the end of this movie. I know going into this, I thought for sure they were going to have to kill one of the Strode women. One of them was going to die, but I thought it was either going to be Lori or it was going to be Karen. There was no way they were going to kill Allison.
No.
Because I feel like if they wanted to continue it at all, they were going to go the younger generation with Allison. But Karen, I definitely feel like that was the smart choice out of the 3 to go. But I'm excited to see how Laurie Strode's going to react to losing her child. And is Allison going to be able to power through? I don't know. Is that a broken bone? Is that a compound fracture? What is going on with her leg at the end of this? I mean, how bad is that injury? But I'd like to see the 2 remaining Strode women team up to take down Michael Myers. Even if it ends up killing one of them, I mean, it's going to be savage. It's going to be brutal. This whole movie was brutal. It was gory. It was bloody. I loved it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, I definitely can't wait to see what Halloween Ends is going to end up being. I almost kind of feel like it's going to be Phantasm 2 at this point, where Michael Myers just turns like he just leaves for whatever reason. They can't find him after, this crazy Halloween night that it's been in 2018. And pretty much Allison, she lost her boyfriend, she's lost her mother, and then you have crazy old Laurie Strode, who's, she's lost her daughter and her entire town. So they're going to have to, get in a Hemi-Cuda and go hunting across the United States for Michael Myers, and then eventually circle all the way back to Haddonfield one last time to take him out. And it's going to be a blast. But I'm guessing that somehow Laurie's going to sacrifice herself to take out herself and Michael at the end of Halloween Ends, is my early prediction for that.
Okay. Laurie Strode and Allison jumping in a Hemi-Cuda to attack Michael Myers. I would totally watch this. They have to blow it up at some point in time.
Oh, yeah. They're going to blow up two houses and a car in the next one, at least. The Myers house should be blown up in the next one.
I'm here for it. I would 100% watch that movie. Wow. I had fun with it. I've heard mixed reviews. I know people that love this movie. I know people that hate this movie.
Yep.
But I feel like it fixed a lot of the issues I had with 2018's movie. It even had a lot of flashbacks to kind of like connect the 1978 version with this that I really appreciated.
Yeah, I didn't mind the flashbacks. I know some people just didn't like or didn't need them, but at least like that, I think they kind of just threw them in there to squash like some of the fan fiction that's happened later. Like, oh, you could at least connect Halloween 2 to these events. Like, well, no, you can't, because the flashbacks kind of at least have like that alternate ending to Halloween 1 where they actually catch him after he leaves his own house with, Dr. Loomis there getting ready to shoot him, but then Hawkins intervenes. Like, there was no like, oh, let's get Laurie to the hospital and Michael's still wandering around. So at least they kind of solidified that this is its own thing. So that's why I didn't mind the extra stuff there.
I would say
yeah, go ahead.
No, keep going.
Oh, I was just going to ask, like, if you're going to score this thing, what final score would you give it as a standalone movie?
Are we doing 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 5?
I say let's do 10.
1 out of 10? I would give this 7.5.
That's exactly what I was going to give it. I think they're going to make a decent trilogy finally. These horror movies have a bad history of trying to, capitalize on one another. This may be the first successful or at least consistent trilogy of movies in a row. Because, like, at least the Thorn trilogy, that fell flat on its face, let's be honest. And the Dream Warriors follow-up stuff, that was no good in the Freddy side of things. And Jason was kind of just all over the place for it being the good and bad. This may be like at least like the good first sequential like trilogy they've made in any of this. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Halloween Ends has to offer. They can actually stick the landing with Ends. I may actually end up upping my enjoyment and score of these other two movies down the line. So, but for now, I agree. 7.5 I think is the way to go. So, any final thoughts before we completely move on? Besides, Evil dies tonight.
Evil dies tonight. We need more Ben Tramer. We need more Ben Tramer. He needs to be in Ends.
I just need my 30 seconds of fame for Ben Tramer.
I just need Ben Tramer. If it's him getting lit on fire, hit by a vehicle, if it's another line, if we find out that he is Allison's grandpa, I'm fine with all of it. I just need more Ben Tramer in my life.
I would also take some Busta Rhymes maybe getting killed by Michael Myers finally. That would be pretty sweet. I'm trying to think of other dumb things I would want to see in the next one. Just not good things, just dumb for the sake of having Easter eggs. Like there was one more I thought of and already lost. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Josh Hartnett pop up and then just being killed off too. That would be fun.
It'd be nice if he showed up and he said something, called her mom
Yeah.
or whatever, and she's like, "Oh no, you're mistaken."
Nope, don't know you, never seen you. Like, my mom changed your identity or something. Like, no, you're wrong, kid. Get out of here. It's like I'm 40. Don't call me kid.
Laurie Strode, you are a bad mom. Can we just make that canon now?
There's one consistency in every single one.
She's
whether
a
it be
bad
Jamie
mother.
Lloyd's mom, Josh Hartnett's mom, and now Allison's grandma. She just never lands as a good mother, no matter what.
She's not a good mom. I understand trauma. I understand her being scarred by that. But dang, it really, really screwed her up being able to take care of kids. Which being said, she was a good babysitter.
Yeah,
I go from being a good babysitter to a really, really fucked up mom. That's saying something.
Well, we've been at it for almost 2 hours here, so I think it's
yeah.
about time to sign off. So, Catrin, where can people find you?
They can find me on Catrin Figures, as well as Cinema Figures, as well as on here with the Comic Core. Of course, we are relaunching the 3rd season of Is It That Bad on Sundays, as well as maybe, the Friday show at some point. Gonna do the penguin hands. Madagascar penguin hands.
Waiting for those ideas to make themselves with the penguin hands.
Oh, yeah. What about you, Carson? Where can they find you?
You can find me pretty much anywhere on the internet if you search cwoodard19. That's youtube.com/cwoodard19, Instagram cwoodard19, and Twitter as well. Tomorrow, which would be, if you're watching this on Rewind, October 23rd, I will have the final part of my Harry Potter watch-along. First time ever seeing these Harry Potter movies. And I will be reviewing Deathly Hallows Part 2. So it's recorded, it's in the can, so I can officially say here first that I have finally watched all of the Harry Potter movies. I can join the rest of the world now and be able to enjoy Universal Studios Florida to its fullest. But yeah, catch that review tomorrow. And right here on this Comic Core channel, November 1st, I did set the premiere today. The Modern Men will be returning November 1st. I'll premiere, not live, premiere. Drew Manchu did a wonderful edit job on the video, but we'll be talking about the origin of Venom. So if you like comic books, definitely stay tuned for that. But until next time, evil dies tonight.
Evil does die tonight.
See you